The crisp October air, usually a harbinger of pumpkin juice and cozy evenings, vibrated with an electric hum that particular afternoon. Arthur Finch, perched precariously on the topmost tier of the Triwizard Tournament stands, felt it acutely. Not the magical energy that crackled around the arena, but the raw, nervous excitement of thousands of students, witches, and wizards, all eager for spectacle. He preferred the cool, quiet logic of the Ravenclaw common room, but even he couldn't deny the morbid curiosity that had dragged him here. A fourth-year Muggle-born, Arthur often felt a quiet dissonance between the fantastical world he now inhabited and the grounded reality of his upbringing. Where others saw enchantment, he often sought mechanics. Where spells defied physics, he wondered about the underlying energy transfers. This critical, analytical lens, a blessing in charms and arithmancy, was a curse in social settings. He found himself perpetually on the outside, a quiet observer whose insights were often dismissed as peculiar Muggle ramblings. Today, however, the stakes felt higher than usual. The first task. Dragons, the rumor mill had churned out for weeks. Arthur had spent hours in the library, poring over Muggle texts on reptile biology and reinforced structures, then surreptitiously cross-referencing them with magical bestiaries. He'd even tried to calculate the tensile strength of Dragonhide versus a well-aimed Bombarda Maxima. His fellow Ravenclaws largely thought he was mad. Below him, the arena stretched, a vast, magically expanded expanse carved from the edge of the Forbidden Forest. In its center, four large, rocky enclosures, shimmering with powerful containment charms, hinted at the fierce beasts within. The Black Lake, normally a placid, inky mirror, rippled restlessly in the distance, its surface catching the dim afternoon light. Ludo Bagman's booming voice, magically amplified, sent shivers through the crowd. Welcome to the first task of the Triwizard Tournament. Arthur adjusted his spectacles, his gaze sweeping over the arena, searching for telltale signs, anomalies. The spells woven into the stands, holding thousands aloft, were impressive, he conceded. But they were still spells. They had limits. Every equation had variables, and every magical effect, he suspected, had a cause beyond mere incantation. The champions emerged to thunderous applause. Crumb, stoic and muscular, Fleur, graceful and defiant, Cedric, charming and determined, and Harry Potter, looking utterly bewildered as always. Arthur felt a pang of something akin to sympathy for Harry. Being thrust into the limelight like that was Arthur's idea of a nightmare. Headmaster Dumbledore, resplendent in his robes, gave a brief, enigmatic speech. Then it was time. Bagman, with a theatrical flourish, announced the first champion, Cedric Diggory. A hush fell. Cedric approached the first enclosure. With a flash of light and a roar that vibrated through Arthur's very bones, a magnificent Swedish short snout was revealed. Its blue scales glinted, its nose snorted jets of hot flame. The crowd gasped, a mixture of terror and awe. Arthur, however, felt a different kind of tremor. It wasn't from the dragon's roar. It was a deep, resonant rumble that seemed to come from beneath the stands, a slow, grinding vibration that resonated through the bedrock of the castle itself. He gripped the cold stone railing, his eyes darting to the Black Lake. The surface of the lake, previously calm, began to churn. Not the gentle lapping of merfolk, nor the violent thrashing of a giant squid. This was different. A boiling, tumultuous disturbance, as if an enormous, unseen hand was stirring the depths. Anyone else feel that? Arthur muttered, half to himself, half to the empty space beside him. His usual companion, a shy Hufflepuff named Penelope, had opted for a seat closer to the champions, hoping for a better view of Cedric. No one seemed to notice. All eyes were on Cedric, who was attempting to charm the dragon. Spells flew, fire roared, the crowd cheered. The tremor intensified. The stone beneath Arthur's feet shuddered violently. A crack appeared in the stand next to him, spiderwebbing outwards. Dust rained down from the ancient ceiling of the arena. Panic began to ripple through the lower tiers. What in Merlin's beard? Bagman's voice faltered, losing its magically amplified clarity. A deafening crack ripped through the air, like the sound of a mountain splitting in two. The black lake, once a dark mirror, exploded upwards. Not a splash, not a geyser, but a violent, geological upheaval of water, mud, and ancient sediment. It rose like a grotesque, colossal fist punching through the Earth's crust, sending a wave of black, foul-smelling water crashing over the lower stands, drenching spectators and sending them screaming. Then, from the depths of that apocalyptic spray, it emerged. It was immense. Colossal. Nothing Arthur had ever read in a magical bestiary, nothing he'd seen in a Muggle monster movie, quite prepared him for it. A creature of unbelievable scale, its hide a mottled, scarred charcoal gray, almost black in places, rising higher and higher. Its head, disproportionately small for its vast body, was nevertheless as large as a hippogriff, with ancient, reptilian eyes that glowed with a malevolent, primeval light. Jagged, rock-like dorsal plates, like a mountain range, ran down its spine, culminating in a tail that seemed capable of felling entire forests. The air grew heavy, static with unspoken terror. The dragon, previously the apex predator of the arena, suddenly looked like a common garden lizard. It cowered in its enclosure, whimpering. A guttural roar, deeper than any dragon's, louder than any earthquake, tore through the very fabric of reality. It was a sound of ancient power, of raw, untamed nature, utterly devoid of magic. Arthur felt it in his teeth, in his bones, a primal fear that bypassed all rational thought, yet simultaneously ignited his analytical brain. This wasn't a dragon. This wasn't a leviathan. This wasn't magical. Chaos erupted. Screams of terror mingled with the roar of the creature. Wizards and witches, caught off guard, stumbled and fell. Ministry officials, arrayed in their finest robes, gaped in horror. By Dumbledore's beard came the frantic shout of a ministry wizard near the head table. "It's the Black Lake Leviathan." The myths were true. "No," Arthur whispered, his voice lost in the din. His eyes, wide behind his spectacles, scanned the creature, processing every detail. The sheer mass, the impossible scale, the way the water sluiced off its hide with the density of stone. The vibrations it emitted, not magical pulses, but raw kinetic energy. This was something from a far older, far more dangerous world. The colossal creature, its momentum still carrying it forward, lumbered out of the lake and onto the shore of the arena. Its first step shook the entire stadium, crumbling sections of the stone stands into dust. Students screamed, scrambling over one another. A flurry of spells erupted from the professor's section. Dumbledore, Flitwick, McGonagall, even Moody, wands drawn, unleashed torrents of magic. Blasts of vibrant color streaked towards the beast, shimmering stupefy rays, explosive bombarda charges, constricting impedimenta ropes. The spells struck its hide, and did absolutely nothing. The stupefy rays dissipated on impact, like dust motes hitting a mountain. The bombarda charges sparked against its rough skin, leaving not even a scorch mark. The impedimenta ropes merely slithered off its armored scales. The creature, seemingly oblivious, took another ponderous step, its head swiveling slowly, its ancient eyes taking in the ant-like figures of the wizards below. "It's not responding," yelled Professor Flitwick, his voice surprisingly clear amidst the panic, a flicker of genuine bewilderment crossing his usually cheerful face. He sent a volley of precision charms, each one designed to disable a vital point. They too simply vanished against its hide. Arthur watched in dawning horror. This was exactly what he'd feared. The magical world, insulated by its own power, was utterly unprepared for something outside its paradigm. They were trying to cast spells on a force of nature. The creature lowered its head slightly, letting out another deep, resonant rumble, a sound that seemed to mock their futile efforts. It swept its massive tail in a casual arc. The section of the stands where the Beaux Batons contingent had been seated, a sturdy stone structure, crumbled like gingerbread, sending hundreds of terrified students plummeting to the ground. Screams turned into cries of agony. "It's not magic," Arthur finally bellowed, his voice cracking, but his conviction unwavering. He clutched his wand, a useless stick of holly in his hand. "You can't stun an earthquake. You can't jinx a tidal wave." No one heard him. Or if they did, They dismissed it as the ramblings of a terrified child. Black Lake Leviathan, indeed, boomed the voice of Cornelius Fudge, magically amplified, even as he visibly trembled. He stood at the head table, frantically waving his own wand. It is merely a magical beast of unprecedented scale. Ministry wizards, focus your efforts. A collective stupefy. We must subdue it before the Muggles. The creature, as if annoyed by the incessant, stinging sparks of magic, let out a truly deafening roar, a sound that shook the very foundations of Hogwarts Castle. It wasn't just loud, it was an auditory assault, a pressure wave that flattened trees in the Forbidden Forest and shattered every pane of glass in the upper tiers of the arena. Arthur clapped his hands over his ears, but the sound resonated through his skull. The giant creature's eyes, fixed on the main stands now, glowed brighter. And then, from deep within its throat, an eerie, pulsing blue light began to emanate, growing steadily in intensity. The air around it shimmered. Arthur's mind, despite the terror, raced. Blue light. Energy. What kind of energy? Not magical energy. Not exactly. It felt different. More raw, more physical. Like the crackle of a power line, but magnified a billion times. A horrifying realization dawned on him. This wasn't just a creature. This was a walking, breathing nuclear reactor. The blue light intensified, creating an unearthly glow that bathed the entire arena in a terrifying azure. He knew, with an awful certainty that chilled him to the core, that whatever was coming next, no spell in the wizarding world would be able to stop it. He had to make them understand. Before Hogwarts was nothing more than radioactive dust. The air, seconds before charged with a festive, competitive hum, was now a jagged symphony of screams, splintering wood, and the primal, guttural roar that still vibrated through Arthur Finch's bones. Dust and spray from the Black Lake mingled in a grimy haze, obscuring the colossal figure that had just ripped apart the first task's grandstand. Panic was a tangible, suffocating entity, pushing against every student, every professor, every ministry official present. Arthur, usually prone to analytical detachment, felt a tremor run through him that was only partially fear. The rest was a strange, almost manic exhilaration. He'd seen it. He'd known it. This wasn't a leviathan. Not in the way they thought. Chaos reigned supreme. Aurors, identifiable by their crimson robes, were the first to react, their wands drawn, faces grim. Stupefy. Incarcerus. Confringo. A volley of spells erupted, streaks of red light, ropes of shimmering energy, and bursts of orange flame arcing through the air towards the monstrous head that now surveyed the devastation it had wrought. The creature, Godzilla, Arthur had dubbed it in his head, a name from an old Muggle monster film his father adored, let out a low, rumbling growl. It was a sound that didn't just vibrate in the air, it vibrated inside one's chest cavity, a deep, resonant frequency that spoke of immense power. The stunners glanced off its rough, scale-like hide, dissipating into harmless sparks. The ropes of Incarcerus' spell seemed to snag for a moment, tightening around one of its massive forelegs, before snapping with the ease of dry twigs under an elephant's foot. The Confringo spells, meant to explode, merely created small, localized heat spots on its skin, which the creature seemed not to notice at all, like a particularly persistent mosquito bite. "It's not working," someone shrieked, a younger Auror, his face paling as he watched his spells become utterly useless. "Aim for the eyes." "The gills," barked another, Professor McGonagall's voice, sharp and commanding even amidst the terror, cutting through the din. She herself was launching spells with frightening precision and power. Her Patronus, a shimmering tabby, streaked past, attempting to herd students away, while her conjunctivitis curse soared towards one of the creature's immense, reptilian eyes. The spell hit its mark, exploding in a sickly green light. The beast blinked, a slow, deliberate motion of its thick, leathery eyelid, but showed no sign of discomfort, let alone impairment. It merely tilted its head slightly, as if confused by the persistent gnats. Arthur watched, his brain whirring at a furious pace. This wasn't how magic worked. He'd read enough texts, observed enough duels, to know that even the most powerful creatures, like a full-grown dragon, could be stunned, if not outright subdued, by a coordinated magical assault of this magnitude. This thing was different. Its hide, its very essence, seemed to absorb or deflect magical energy, rather than reacting to it in the expected way. He felt a sudden, sharp tug on his sleeve. "Arthur, we need to move. The stands are collapsing." It was Elara Thorne, her fiery Gryffindor hair disheveled, her practical courage shining through her fear-streaked face. She was pulling him towards a less damaged section of the arena, away from the monster's immediate vicinity. "Elara, wait." Arthur tried to pull back, his gaze fixed on Godzilla. "Don't you see? The spells, they're useless. It's not resisting the magic. It's like the magic isn't even registering." Elara spared a glance back, her eyes wide as she saw Professor Flitwick himself, tiny against the immense creature, sending a barrage of powerful, precise charms. Even the charms master's efforts, renowned for their finesse and impact, seemed to merely tickle the beast. It's impossible," she breathed, her voice laced with awe and terror. "What is it?" "That's just it," Arthur exclaimed, his voice rising in pitch, a frantic energy coursing through him. He was tired of being overlooked. He had to make them understand. It's not a magical creature, not in the way they think. This thing is, it's something else. Something older. Something non-magical. Elara stared at him, her brow furrowing. "Non-magical? Arthur, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as a non-magical beast this size. This is definitely a creature of magic, a monstrous one." "No," Arthur insisted, shaking his head vehemently. "Think about it. Muggle science talks about energy, radiation, physical density. What if this creature's hide isn't magically resistant, but biologically dense? What if it's absorbing the energy from the spells because that's how its biology works? Like a lightning rod, but for magical energy." He saw a familiar, slightly harried figure nearby, Professor Sinistra, the astronomy teacher, her wand held aloft, trying to conjure a shield charm that shimmered weakly against the monster's aura. Arthur, impulsively, broke free of Elara's grip and dashed towards her. "Professor Sinistra," he shouted, dodging a piece of falling masonry. "Professor, the spells aren't working because it's not a magical entity. We need to understand its physical properties, not just magical countermeasures." Sinistra, eyes wide with terror and concentration, barely registered him. She swiped her wand through the air, pushing a group of petrified first years behind a reinforced wall. "Finch, get to safety. This is no time for silly Muggle theories." Her dismissal was sharp, automatic, born of adrenaline and ingrained belief. A wave of frustration washed over Arthur. He felt the familiar sting of being brushed aside, his unique perspective deemed irrelevant, even childish. But this time, it wasn't just his ego. It was the future of Hogwarts, the lives of everyone present. "Silly Muggle theories," he muttered bitterly, retreating back to Elara, who had watched the exchange with a mixture of disbelief and growing curiosity. "The silly Muggle theories are the ones that are actually explaining why your powerful magic is doing nothing." Just then, a booming voice, laced with theatrical authority, cut through the remaining din silence. "Stand back, all of you. The Ministry has arrived." Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic, strode into the arena, flanked by a phalanx of aurors, including the stern Percy Weasley. Fudge's usually jovial face was a mask of furious determination, his bowler hat askew. He looked less concerned about the immediate danger than the utter lack of control and the implied criticism of his ministry's preparedness. "This is clearly a Black Lake leviathan," Fudge boomed, his voice magically amplified. "An ancient beast, thought long extinct. A creature of immense magical power. It must be subdued immediately. More powerful curses. Incendio maxima. Bombarda." He gestured wildly, and the aurors, spurred by their minister, doubled down. A furious barrage of flames erupted, engulfing portions of the creature's back and one of its massive legs. Explosions tore at its tough hide. The ground vibrated with the force of the combined magic. Arthur watched, aghast. "No, he's just making it angry." Indeed, the monster, which had previously seemed merely annoyed, now let out a truly deafening roar. It reared back, its head scraping against the dark, cloud-laden sky, and then slammed its colossal foot down, pulverizing another section of the arena stands, sending rubble and screams flying. Its eyes, previously impassive, now glowed with a faint, internal orange light. A flash of recognition, a memory from a blurry, grainy documentary about nuclear physics his father had once watched, flickered in Arthur's mind. Radiation. Energy transfer. If it's not magical, then what is it reacting to? Raw energy? It's like it's feeding on the magic, Arthur murmured, barely audible over the renewed screams. Or deflecting it, like a shield or a sponge. But that glow, it's a reaction to the energy being thrown at it, not a magical attack of its own. Elara, clutching her wand, was no longer looking at him with skepticism. Her face was pale, but her eyes held a spark of desperate understanding. She had seen the repeated failure of magic firsthand. She had heard Fudge's bluster, watched it lead to increased destruction, not control. "Arthur," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "what do you mean, feeding? What exactly is a non-magical entity like this supposed to do?" He turned to her, his own fear momentarily eclipsed by the urgency of his conviction. Think of it like a giant, living battery. Or a walking reactor. These spells, they're energy. Powerful energy. It's either absorbing it, converting it, or reacting to it in a way that just makes it stronger or more aggressive. He pointed towards the glowing eyes. That's not some ancient curse. That's a physical reaction. Maybe even a warning. Suddenly, the monstrous head dipped, its gaze sweeping across the remaining arena, fixing on the huddled students, teachers, and ministry officials. Its pupils seemed to dilate slightly. A low hum began, not from its throat, but emanating from its entire body, a deeper frequency than its earlier roar. The air around it began to shimmer, distorting the light. "It's going to attack," Arthur yelled, the pieces of his Muggle knowledge clicking together with terrifying clarity. "It's charging up. It's going to release something." He looked wildly around, desperate to find anyone who would listen. He spotted Professor Flitwick, still directing students away, his small frame trembling, not from fear, but from the immense effort of weaving powerful protective charms. Flitwick's spells, though formidable, were defensive, not offensive, and even he looked utterly bewildered by the creature's imperviousness. Arthur sprinted towards his head of house, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Elara, despite her terror, followed, a new resolve setting in her brave Gryffindor heart. "Professor Flitwick," Arthur shouted, skidding to a halt beside him. "You have to stop them. The minister. Their spells aren't just useless, they're provoking it. They're making it worse." Flitwick, his usually cheerful face drawn and pale, turned, his small, sharp eyes narrowed. "Finch? What in Merlin's beard are you talking about? It's not a magical leviathan, Professor. It's something from a different realm of understanding. It's absorbing the energy from the spells. The glow in its eyes, that hum, it's building to something. A massive energy discharge. It's going to destroy us all if they keep hitting it with magic." Arthur practically gasped the words, pointing a trembling finger at the looming beast. Fudge, hearing the commotion and seeing a mere fourth-year student addressing a professor with such frantic intensity, strode over, his face flushed with indignation. "What is this impertinence, boy? Professor Flitwick, control your Ravenclaw. This is a grave situation, not a time for fantastical pronouncements from a child." Arthur rounded on the minister, a sudden surge of righteous fury eclipsing his usual timidity. "Fantastical? You're the one being fantastical, minister. Your magic isn't working. Your leviathan is about to turn Hogwarts into rubble because you refuse to look beyond your own dogma." Fudge's face turned puce. "How dare you? I am the Minister for Magic. You will address me with respect. This creature is clearly an ancient magical terror. It requires more powerful magic, not less. Send in the Aura Reserve. We'll blast it back to the depths it crawled from." Arthur felt a chill. They weren't listening. They wouldn't listen. He was a fourth year, a Muggle-born, dismissed as a child peddling silly theories. But the monster, Godzilla, was humming louder, the air around it crackling. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble with increasing intensity. "Arthur, look!" Elara cried, pointing with a shaking hand. The glowing orange in Godzilla's eyes intensified, spreading along the ridges of its jawline. A blinding, atomic blue light began to pulse deep within its throat, growing brighter, more terrifying, with every passing second. The monstrous head tilted upwards, aiming directly at the castle, at Hogwarts itself. The ministry, the aurors, the professors, even the panicked students, they all looked up, their faces frozen in a mixture of dawning horror and disbelief. Arthur knew, with sickening certainty, what was coming. It wasn't a curse. It wasn't a spell. It was something far more devastating, far more alien to their understanding. And they had just poured all their magic into charging it up. "It's a warning shot," Arthur whispered, a profound dread settling in his gut, and they just gave it the ammunition. He had to make them listen. He had to. But how? How could an ordinary boy, armed only with a different way of thinking, convince an entire world steeped in magic that their most potent weapons were about to doom them all? The blue light in the monster's throat flared, reaching an unbearable intensity, illuminating the entire arena in a terrifying, ethereal glow. The roar that followed wasn't just sound. It was a physical force, a tidal wave of destruction about to be unleashed. The air above the Black Lake, still thick with the acrid scent of ozone and singed rock, offered no solace. Dawn broke reluctantly, painting the sky in bruised purples and grays, revealing the true scale of the devastation wrought by the creature. The Quidditch pitch was a sunken wasteland, the stands splintered and scattered like matchsticks. The shore nearest the lake was a jagged, smoking crater, and a vast, muddy scar stretched across the landscape where the behemoth had clambered out. Confusion was an understatement. Panic had a more accurate ring to it. Ministry officials, led by a red-faced, sputtering Cornelius Fudge, flapped around like bewildered owls, their wands pointed aimlessly at the retreating ripples in the lake. Aurors, usually so formidable, looked pale and lost, their defensive spells barely scratching the creature's hide before it vanished. Professor Dumbledore, serene as ever, had overseen the evacuation of the remaining students from the stands, his voice a calm anchor amidst the storm, but even his eyes held a flicker of deep concern. Arthur, huddled with his Ravenclaw peers in the Great Hall, found himself a strange island of frustrated clarity in a sea of terror and magical dogma. He'd watched as Professor Snape's attempts at a powerful binding curse had simply dissolved upon contact with the creature's scales, followed by Professor McGonagall's frantic defensive charms that only deflected loose debris. It was also futile. "It's a leviathan, a beast of ancient magic," a Hufflepuff boy cried, voice trembling. "Professor Binns told us about them. Unbreakable, unkillable." "Rubbish," Arthur muttered, earning a glare from a prefect. "It's not magic, not their magic anyway. If it was, Snape would have put it in a jar already. This is something else." He tapped his fingers impatiently on the worn oak table. Every failed spell, every wild theory, every look of profound terror on the faces of experienced wizards only cemented his conviction. This creature defied their fundamental understanding. It was a threat they couldn't simply charm away. He felt a hand clap him hard on the shoulder. "Finch, still mumbling to yourself about Muggle science, are we?" It was Elara Thorne, her fiery red hair disheveled, her Gryffindor robes smudged with dust, but her eyes bright with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. She'd been one of the last students to be ushered into the castle, having insisted on helping the prefects manage the younger years. "Elara, you all right?" Arthur asked, genuinely relieved to see her. She scoffed, a familiar challenging glint in her eyes. "About as all right as anyone can be after seeing a bloody mountain with teeth eat half the Quidditch pitch. Still think it's not magical, do you?" Arthur nodded, his jaw tight. More convinced than ever. "Their spells are useless. Didn't you see Snape? He looked like he was trying to stun a landslide with a feather." Elara actually chuckled, a short, sharp sound that belied her fear. "He did, didn't he? All right, Professor Smarty Pants. So if it's not magic, what is it? And more importantly, what do we do about it?" The question hung in the air, echoing the helplessness of every adult in the castle. Before Arthur could answer, a profound, shuddering thump rocked the entire castle. A deafening roar, primal and resonant, tore through the air, rattling the enchanted ceiling of the great hall. Dust rained down from the ancient stone. By Merlin's beard, a voice shrieked. A second thump, closer this time, and the entire castle groaned. Students screamed, scrambling away from the windows, which now showed a horrifying sight. The colossal head of the creature, its obsidian eyes glinting with primeval indifference, was level with the highest towers of Hogwarts. A section of the Transfiguration courtyard, including the stone bridge, simply vanished in a cloud of dust and pulverized rock. Godzilla was attacking Hogwarts. Chaos erupted. Prefects shouted orders, but their voices were drowned out by the roar and the screams. Professors, their faces grim, began ushering students towards the dungeons, deemed the safest place within the castle's thickest walls. The protective wards around Hogwarts, legendary for their strength, shimmered violently, buckling under repeated blows from the creature's immense bulk. Each impact sent tremors through the foundations, dislodging ancient stones and showering the terrified students below. Arthur felt a cold dread settle in his stomach, but beneath it, a desperate spark of resolve ignited. This wasn't some theoretical exercise anymore. This was his home, his school, being pulverized. He couldn't just stand by. "We have to find out what it is, Elara." Arthur yelled over the din, grabbing her arm. "We need to understand it, and quickly." Elara, usually pragmatic to a fault, didn't argue. Her face was pale, but her Gryffindor courage shone through. "Where do we even start, Finch? The restricted section? I doubt they have how to deal with colossal non-magical reptiles on the shelves." "Not directly," Arthur said, pulling her towards a less crowded archway, away from the stream of students heading for the dungeons. "But maybe something about things that resist magic. Things that don't fit the usual mold. Ancient threats. Things so old, they predate our modern magical understanding. Something that the founders, or even older wizards, might have encountered without having the framework to explain it." His mind raced, piecing together fragments of Muggle monster lore, geological formations, and the very specific way the creature had shrugged off spells. If the magical world believed everything was magic, then anything that wasn't magic would be either ignored or categorized as something incredibly obscure and powerful within their own system. "The library," Arthur declared, adrenaline sharpening his focus. "The deepest parts of the library. If anyone had a non-magical explanation, or even just a record of something similar, it would be hidden amongst the oldest texts, probably misfiled as a dark entity or an ancient elemental, because they had no other frame of reference." Elara, ever the practical one, grimaced. "During a giant monster attack? Bit of a mad idea, Finch. But, okay. Beats sitting in a dungeon waiting for the roof to fall in. Besides, I know some shortcuts in there, even to the restricted section, if Madame Pants is preoccupied." Their journey to the library was fraught with peril. The castle shook violently with each impact. They had to duck behind suits of armor as debris rained down from the ceiling. Outside, they heard the terrifying sound of stone grinding against stone, followed by a roar that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. They saw glimpses of Professors Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Flitwick, along with a few Aurors, attempting to reinforce the wards, their faces etched with desperation as their most powerful shields buckled. Fudge was nowhere to be seen, likely cowering under his own desk. They finally reached the library, surprisingly empty save for a few overturned chairs and scattered scrolls. Madame Pants, the formidable librarian, was nowhere in sight, either evacuated or attempting to reinforce her precious collection. "Right," Elara said, her wand already out. "You look for anything that sounds like ancient, resistant to magic, earthborn, or colossal beast. I'll check the sections on mythical creatures and obscure magical history. They often have footnotes referencing even older, stranger things." They split up, the silence of the vast library a stark contrast to the destruction echoing outside. Arthur moved with a methodical efficiency, his Ravenclaw mind taking over. He ignored the neatly organized contemporary texts, heading straight for the dusty, towering shelves that seemed to sag under the weight of centuries. He pulled out tomes with crumbling leather bindings, their titles in archaic script. A compendium of the primeval earth, the unfathomable depths, whispers from the root of time. His fingers flew over brittle pages, his eyes scanning for keywords. He dismissed elaborate descriptions of dragons and griffins, centaurs and merepeople. These were known. These were magic. He was looking for the outliers. Elara, meanwhile, used her wand as a light, moving quickly through the labyrinthine aisles. She knew the library's quirks, the hidden alcoves, the sections that were rarely disturbed. Found something, she called out suddenly, her voice hushed. Arthur hurried over. Elara was standing before a crumbling tome, its cover adorned with a crude, terrifying illustration of a many-headed serpent rising from a tumultuous ocean. But it wasn't the serpent that caught Arthur's eye. It was a smaller, almost hidden sketch in the margin, a squat, powerful reptilian figure, its back studded with jagged plates, its eyes glowing with an ominous light. It was unmistakable. "What is it?" Arthur whispered, heart pounding. Elara pointed to a passage, her finger tracing the faded script. "It's in some kind of old runic dialect, but I can pick out a few words. The Kami of the deep earth, a being of rock and fury, born of starfire and ocean's core, immune to the whispers of the ether, rises in times of great imbalance." Immune to the whispers of the ether, Arthur repeated, a thrill of vindication shooting through him despite the dire circumstances. That's it. That's their word for magic. Or at least, the magical energies that saturate their world. It implies it's not affected by it. He snatched up another book, an even older one, its pages thick with diagrams. He flipped to a section on ancient geological formations and diagrams of the Earth's core, illustrations that seemed to connect with the descriptions in Elara's book. "Look," Arthur said, pointing to a diagram of subterranean tunnels and vast, magma-filled caverns. "If it's born of rock and fury and ocean's core, it's not some ethereal spirit. It's a physical entity. It's not magical in the way they understand it. It's something else entirely. Something primordial. Something that draws power from the earth itself, not the ether." He traced the jagged plates on the creature's back in the marginal drawing. These could be like natural conduits. Maybe some kind of biological energy storage. Not magic, but something like it in a Muggle scientific way. The castle shuddered again, more violently this time. A section of the library's ceiling cracked, sending a shower of plaster cascading down. A familiar, high-pitched voice echoed through the hall. "Arthur. Elara. What in Merlin's name are you doing down here? Get to the dungeons, immediately." It was Professor Flitwick, wand in hand, his face pale and streaked with dust, but his small frame radiating grim determination. He looked utterly exhausted, but his keen eyes immediately spotted the ancient tomes in their hands. "Professor," Arthur exclaimed, adrenaline overriding his usual shyness. He thrust the books forward. "You have to see this. We think we've found something. It's not the Black Lake Leviathan, Professor. It's not a magical creature in the way we understand it." Flitwick, usually so meticulous, didn't hesitate. He rushed forward, his eyes rapidly scanning the open pages. He saw the ancient runic script, the crude drawing, and Arthur's fervent explanation. He saw the correlation Arthur was drawing between the ancient descriptions and his Muggle logic. He saw the complete and utter failure of every magical attempt against the creature. And in the face of all that, Arthur's outlandish theories were starting to make a terrifying amount of sense. "Immune to the whispers of the ether," Flitwick murmured, his voice barely audible, his eyes widening as he made the connection. "A being of rock and fury. This isn't merely strong magic, is it? This is anti-magic? Or simply non-magic?" He looked from the ancient texts to Arthur, then to the shaking castle, and back again. The understanding slowly dawned on his face, replacing the exhaustion with a dawning horror mixed with reluctant acceptance. Just then, a wave of immense heat rolled through the library, followed by a blinding flash of green light from outside. The castle walls groaned under a tremendous impact. "It's attacking the wards again." Elara cried, peering cautiously through a shattered window. Professor Dumbledore just used his most powerful shield charm, but it's barely holding. Flitwick's eyes snapped to the window, then back to the books, and finally settled on Arthur. A new resolve hardened his features. If what you say is true, Finch, then conventional magic is useless against it. We need to think differently. If it draws power from the earth, perhaps we can starve it of that power. Or redirect it. This is not a creature to be fought with spells, but with science, as you call it, and an understanding of its unique vulnerabilities. We need to find its weakness. And quickly. Minister Fudge and his Aurors will only continue to escalate with their futile charms, and that will only make things worse. Far, far worse. The green light outside pulsed again, brighter this time, and the entire castle vibrated as if struck by a giant's hammer. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the stone floor, seeming to emanate from the very foundations of Hogwarts. Flitwick looked at Arthur, his small frame trembling, but his gaze steady. There must be a way. A way to stop it that doesn't involve merely throwing more magic at an unmoving wall. Tell me, Arthur, what do you propose? The Great Hall lay in a state of suspended devastation. Rubble from the ceiling mixed with overturned tables, and the charred scorch marks from the creature's atomic breath marred the ancient stone walls. Despite the immediate repairs attempted by the most skilled Aurors and professors, a palpable sense of dread clung to the air like a winter fog. Students, evacuated to safer, deeper dungeons, huddled together, their whispers carrying the weight of unthinkable fear. Yet, in Professor Flitwick's cramped, book-lined office atop Ravenclaw Tower, a different kind of urgency pulsed. It's not just the size, Professor, or the scales, Arthur began, tracing a diagram he'd hastily sketched on a spare parchment. The drawing, a crude outline of the behemoth, was adorned with annotations only he could fully decipher, bioluminescent spines, thermal vents, seismic impact points. It's the energy signature. That roar, it wasn't just sound. It was a physical force. Like a blast wave combined with an electromagnetic pulse. The kind of thing that implies an internal nuclear reaction, not just a magical creature's vocalization. Elara, perched on the edge of a stack of antique tomes, watched Arthur with an almost unnerving intensity. Her Gryffindor common sense had kicked in the moment she saw the castle buckle. And that's why the shield charms failed, isn't it? They're designed to deflect magical energy, not raw kinetic force from whatever that thing is. Flitwick, his tiny frame dwarfed by his overstuffed armchair, hummed thoughtfully. He stroked his goatee, his eyes, usually twinkling with merriment, now sharp and focused. Indeed, the nature of its attack contradicts every magical defense known to us. Arthur, your theory about the energy pulse, explain it again. In terms a wizard can understand, if you please. Arthur took a deep breath, trying to translate his Muggle scientific understanding into something digestible for a wizard. Imagine a spell, Professor, that doesn't just push, but vibrates the air, the stone, the very atoms of what it touches, at a frequency that tears it apart from the inside. And it's not just a spell, it's a biological function. Like a dragon's fire, but orders of magnitude more powerful and radioactive. My readings from the shattered compasses and the strange static electricity around the damage, it all points to something generating immense internal heat and power. Something beyond biological scaling as we understand it, almost like a living, walking power plant. A living power plant, Elara repeated, a note of awe in her voice. So, how do you fight a power plant? You don't fight it head-on with spells that only redirect energy, Elara, Arthur said, turning to her. You disrupt its systems. Overload them or, conversely, starve them. The ancient texts I found, Professor, he gestured to the dusty scrolls Flitwick had reluctantly retrieved from a forgotten archive. They spoke of earthshakers and sky-rending titans that were born of elemental fury, not of wand-waving. They often mentioned a vulnerability to extremes, extreme cold, extreme sound, or a specific frequency that resonated with their internal hum. We need to find its frequency. Flitwick's eyes widened. A resonant frequency, akin to certain runic arrays that can shatter specific substances? or the harmonic vibrations used in advanced enchantment to destabilize an object's inherent structure. Precisely, Arthur exclaimed, thrilled that Flitwick was making the connection. Except, instead of breaking it apart, we want to temporarily overload its sensory system or disrupt that internal hum it uses to generate its energy pulse. Blind it, deafen it, disorient it. Give us time to understand it better, to evacuate, to think. But how? Elara pressed, ever practical. Even if we knew the frequency, what spell could generate that kind of precise, overwhelming vibrational force on a creature that size without harming the castle or us? Flitwick tapped his wand thoughtfully against his chin. There is an obscure branch of sound magic, rooted in ancient Egyptian and Norse runic chants. It was said to be capable of resonating with the very core of an object or being. A highly amplified sonorous charm, yes, but not just louder. More complex. Woven with a specific runic sequence that directs and modulates the sound, turning it from an amplification into a focused, vibrating assault. And if Arthur's theory of a living power plant holds true, perhaps an equally complex energy-dampening charm to interfere with its internal processes. Something akin to a finite incantatum on a grand scale, but targeting its metabolic output, not a spell. Arthur's eyes lit up. A magical dampener. That could work. If we can disrupt its internal energy generation, even for a short time, it might lose the ability to use its atomic breath or its powerful roar. It would be disoriented, possibly even forced into a dormant state. It's a staggeringly complex piece of magic, Arthur, Flitwick cautioned. The runic sequences alone would take weeks to prepare, and the power required. It would demand the combined magical output of several highly skilled wizards, perhaps even an ancient artifact to amplify the effect. Weeks we don't have, Professor, Elara interjected, pointing towards the window. Even from this height, they could hear a low, guttural growl vibrating through the castle walls. Godzilla was stirring again. And artifacts are out of the question. But what if we simplified it? Focus solely on the sound aspect first. Overload its auditory and sensory organs. Buy us that crucial time. Arthur nodded rapidly. Elara's right. The immediate goal is disorientation. If we can make it pause, even for a few minutes, we can observe its reaction, gather more data. Maybe target its head, its eyes, its gills, if it has gills, given it came from the lake. A highly focused sonorous, woven with a simplified, yet potent, runic array to create a debilitating harmonic vibration, Flitwick mused, already pulling out more scrolls and a fresh quill. It would require precise aim, immense concentration, and a large open space. The Quidditch pitch, perhaps, or the courtyard. Just as they began outlining the necessary runic pattern, the door to Flitwick's office burst open, revealing a flustered Cornelius Fudge, flanked by two stern-faced Aurors, Dawlish and Shacklebolt. Fudge's face was a mottled shade of puce, his bowler hat askew. Flitwick, there you are. Fudge blustered, his voice echoing in the small office. And you, young Finch and Miss Thorne. What in Merlin's name are you doing up here, poring over ancient gibberish while Hogwarts faces an unprecedented crisis? I've been informed you're spreading preposterous Muggle theories about radioactive power plants and vibrational attacks. Have you completely lost your minds? Minister Fudge, with all due respect, Flitwick said, standing to his full, albeit short, height, his hand instinctively gripping his wand. We are devising a strategy based on the creature's observed nature, which, as your Aurors have no doubt reported, defies conventional magical suppression. Nonsense. Utter poppycock. Fudge roared, striding into the room, nearly tripping over a stack of books. This leviathan is a magical beast, albeit an unusually resilient one. We are preparing a full-scale assault. A combined, concentrated barrage of the most powerful offensive spells known to the Ministry. Bombarda Maxima, Confringo, even ancient containment charms. We will overwhelm it. And watch it simply absorb or deflect every single one, as it has done repeatedly? Arthur challenged, his voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in his hands. He stepped forward. Minister, your spells are based on magical energy. This creature isn't just absorbing it, it's treating it like background radiation. You're effectively feeding it or doing nothing at all. We have evidence, ancient records, combined with modern Muggle observations that point to a different approach entirely. Fudge scoffed, turning a dismissive glare on Arthur. Muggle observations? What good are those against a magical titan? This is the wizarding world, boy. Not some Muggle laboratory. You are a student, Finch, and a Muggle-born at that. You have no authority to contradict the Minister for Magic or undermine the efforts of our most skilled aurors. His Muggle observations are precisely what's saving us from further blunders, Minister. Elara cut in, stepping protectively in front of Arthur. Her wand was subtly, but firmly, clutched in her hand. Your skilled aurors have only managed to annoy it further. Shacklebolt, usually calm, looked distinctly uncomfortable. Even Dawlish seemed less confident than usual, having witnessed the creature's imperviousness firsthand. Watch your tongue, Miss Thorne. Fudge spluttered, his face turning an even darker shade of purple. You are all jeopardizing the safety of this school with your outlandish notions. I demand you cease this conspiracy at once and report to the dungeons with the other students. Flitwick, you are a professor. You should know better than to entertain such dangerous, ill-conceived fantasies. And I, Minister, am the head of Ravenclaw, Flitwick retorted, his voice low but firm, a rare steely edge to it. My responsibility is to truth, to logic, and to the safety of my students. The truth, as Arthur has painstakingly demonstrated, is that your conventional magical approach is futile. Your spells are cannon fodder. We are attempting to find a solution, not merely throw more magic at a problem that doesn't understand it. Aurors, confiscate their wands. Escort them to the student dormitories. This insubordination will not stand. Fudge commanded, pointing a trembling finger at the trio. Before Dawlish could even twitch, Elara raised her wand, a silent, defiant gesture. You want our wands, Minister? You'll have to take them. Her eyes, usually warm, blazed with Gryffindor fire. Arthur felt a surge of courage seeing Elara's unwavering stance. He pulled out his own wand, though his hand still trembled. He was a student, yes, but he wouldn't back down. Not now. Not when he was so close to proving his theory. Flitwick, seeing the immediate, hostile escalation, made a split-second decision. Minister, may I remind you that a full-scale magical assault on a creature of this magnitude inside Hogwarts grounds would endanger every student, every artifact, every stone of this castle? Our plan is surgical, designed for temporary incapacitation and observation to minimize further damage. Yours is a gamble with the very existence of Hogwarts. Fudge hesitated, his gaze darting between the defiant students and the resolute professor. The growl outside intensified, closer now, a deep thrumming that vibrated through the floorboards. You have until midnight. Fudge finally spat, clearly rattled by the creature's renewed activity and Flitwick's words. If your solution fails to materialize, or if you cause any further damage, you will face the full wrath of the Ministry. And your wands, young lady, will be snapped. He whirled around, nearly tripping again, and stormed out, Aurors in tow, leaving the trio in the sudden, tense silence of the office. Midnight, Flitwick whispered, looking at the scroll with the half-drawn runic array. That's barely 3 hours. Then we don't have a moment to lose, Arthur said, his voice firm, his trembling gone. He looked at Elara, who offered a quick, determined nod. This was it. No more theories, no more arguments. It was time to act. Outside, the air thrummed with a low, building hum. The very ground seemed to vibrate. Godzilla was not just stirring, it was preparing for its next move. And this time, Arthur knew it wouldn't be content with just a corner of the Great Hall. It was coming for Hogwarts itself. The air itself vibrated, thick with the scent of ozone and burning stone. Godzilla, a living mountain of scales and rage, had breached the castle's outer walls. Chunks of ancient masonry rained down, dwarfed by the creature's colossal bulk as it tore at the astronomy tower, its thunderous roars echoing through the night. Flames flickered from its maw, scorching the battlements, sending panicked students scattering. Spells, from the simple bombarda to complex shielding charms, detonated harmlessly against its hide, looking like pathetic sparks against a storm. Desperation was a palpable thing, a chill colder than any Dementor. From a hastily enchanted platform hovering precariously near the shattered apex of the Ravenclaw Tower, Arthur Finch gripped the console of his makeshift device. His heart hammered a frantic drumbeat against his ribs, but his mind, remarkably, was a crucible of icy focus. Beside him, Elara Thorne, wand held aloft, eyes blazing with fierce determination, channeled her magic, feeding it into the array of runic circles Flitwick had etched onto the platform. The diminutive charms professor, meanwhile, zipped around them, his tiny form a blur of focused energy, strengthening the platform's stability and deflecting stray debris with precise, powerful spells. "It's charging another burst, Arthur." Elara yelled over the cacophony, her voice strained. "Can you activate it?" Arthur's gaze darted to the colossal beast, its spines glowing ominously. "Not yet. The harmonics aren't stable enough for full dispersal. We need one more surge of power, Elara, now." Suddenly, a new voice, laced with indignant fury, cut through the din. "What in Merlin's name is this reckless foolery?" Minister Cornelius Fudge, his lime-green bowler hat askew, had operated onto a nearby intact section of the wall, flanked by a dozen stern-faced aurors. "Professor Flitwick, cease this instant. Your Muggle-inspired contraption is endangering the entire operation. The Ministry has arrived to deploy the Black Lake Leviathan Containment Protocol." He gestured dramatically, as if the protocol itself would manifest from thin air. Flitwick, usually so mild-mannered, turned with a snarl that would have made a dragon blush. "Minister, your protocol involves flinging the same ineffective spells at a creature that has proven immune to them for the last hour. This Muggle-inspired contraption, as you so disparagingly call it, is our only hope." "Nonsense," Fudge blustered, stepping forward. "Aurors, dismantle that device. And arrest young Mr. Finch for reckless endangerment." Two aurors moved towards their platform, wands raised. Elara, quicker than thought, spun, a powerful impedimenta charm erupting from her wand, slamming into the first auror and sending him reeling into his companion. "Don't you dare touch him," she roared, her Gryffindor courage burning bright. Fudge gasped, scandalized. "Insubordination. You'll be expelled, Miss Thorne." "Expel me after you've saved the school, Minister," she shot back, never breaking eye contact with the towering beast. Arthur tuned them out, his fingers dancing over the arcane symbols and flashing lights of his device. "Almost there. Elara, give me everything you've got. Focus it into the core amplifier. Imagine it as a single, piercing note." Elara squeezed her eyes shut, sweat beading on her forehead as she poured her magic into the runes. The platform hummed, a low, resonant thrumming that grew in intensity. The air around Arthur's device shimmered, distorting the light. He knew this wasn't like any spell they'd cast before. This was a magical amplification of a Muggle principle: focused sonic resonance. They weren't trying to harm Godzilla with a magical blast, but to overload its sensory organs, to temporarily disorient its non-magical physiology. "Now, Arthur," Flitwick shrieked, his voice filled with a desperate urgency. Godzilla's gaping maw began to glow with an infernal blue light, signaling the imminent blast. Arthur slammed his hand onto the central activation rune, simultaneously twisting a dial on the Muggle-engineered pressure gauge. Fire! A searing wave of pure, concentrated sound, amplified by ancient runes and Elara's raw magical power, burst from the device. It wasn't visible like a spell, but it ripped through the air with physical force, a silent scream that shattered nearby windows and buckled stone. It struck Godzilla head-on, exactly as the creature unleashed its atomic breath. For a horrifying second, the sonic wave collided with the torrent of blue energy. A deafening crack ripped through the night, followed by an explosion of shimmering, disorienting light. Godzilla's atomic breath wavered, fragmented, then collapsed back into its throat with a frustrated, gurgling roar. The creature staggered back, its immense head thrashing from side to side, its eyes darting wildly. It wasn't merely deafened, its entire nervous system seemed to be in agonizing disarray. "It's disoriented." "Now, the containment charm," Flitwick shouted, not missing a beat. Without hesitation, he and Elara combined their magical might. Two brilliant streams of golden light erupted from their wands, intertwining as they arced towards the struggling behemoth. The light expanded, forming an intricate web of shimmering energy that began to coalesce around Godzilla's legs and torso. It wasn't a destructive spell, but a massive, complex stasis charm designed to hold, not harm. Godzilla roared anew, a sound of pure agony and confusion, struggling against the encroaching magical bonds. The sheer power radiating from it threatened to tear the charm apart, but Elara and Flitwick held firm, their faces grim with effort. Arthur, having completed his part, watched, breathless, as the titanic struggle unfolded. The glowing energy web tightened, slowly but surely, like a golden spider's silk around an infuriated fly. Finally, with a shudder that vibrated through the entire castle, Godzilla slumped, its immense weight settling against the damaged astronomy tower, held fast by the magical containment. Its thrashing subsided to a low growl, its eyes still darting in disoriented confusion. A collective gasp of disbelief and relief swept through the Hogwarts grounds. The battle was paused. It worked, Elara whispered, collapsing to her knees, wand still clutched tightly. Flitwick, panting, lowered his arm, a look of profound exhaustion and triumph on his face. Arthur didn't wait. He quickly detached a small, enchanted probe from his console. Now for the proof, Professor. He levitated the probe towards Godzilla, guiding it towards a section of cooling scales on its back where the containment field was weakest. With a gentle tap, the probe affixed itself, then swiftly retracted, bringing with it a tiny, obsidian black scale. He presented it to Flitwick, who immediately cast a complex revealing charm. The scale glowed, not with magic, but with an internal energy signature that flashed through an array of arcane runes on the platform. The runes detailed its elemental composition, its geological age, and, crucially, a faint but undeniable reading of radiation. Arthur then turned his focus to the array of large projection charms Flitwick had prepared earlier. With a flick of his wand, empowered by the resonance from his device, Arthur caused the data to blossom into the night sky, visible to everyone on the grounds. Spectral graphs, diagrams, and a stark comparison to known magical creature compositions floated above them. This creature, Arthur's voice, though amplified by a sonorous charm from Flitwick, was calm and clear, cutting through the stunned silence, is not magical. Its composition, its energy signature, the very way it reacts to stimulus, it conforms entirely to non-magical, Muggle scientific principles. It is a biological organism, powered by natural, terrestrial forces. My research, drawn from Muggle theories on colossal reptilian life and geological energy, confirmed our approach had to be different. It wasn't immune to magic, it simply wasn't affected by magic in the ways we understand, because its nature is fundamentally physical, not arcane. Fudge, pale as a ghost, stared up at the projected data, then at the contained behemoth, then back at Arthur. He tried to speak, but only a strangled choke came out. The Aurors looked equally dumbfounded. The students and staff below, however, listened intently. The fear was still there, but mingling with it was a dawning understanding, and, for some, an unmistakable flicker of respect. This quiet, Muggle-born Ravenclaw, whom many had dismissed, had seen what the greatest wizards could not. He had saved them. Professor Dumbledore, who had been orchestrating defensive efforts from the Great Hall, finally walked out onto the devastated grounds, his face grim, but his eyes twinkling with a peculiar warmth as he looked at Arthur. He raised his hand and silence fell. Mr. Finch has shown us something profound tonight, Dumbledore announced, his voice carrying effortlessly. He has reminded us that the world is larger and perhaps more wonderfully complex than our most ancient texts suggest. He has proven that wisdom can come from unexpected places, and that understanding requires an open mind, not just a powerful wand. Arthur felt a warmth bloom in his chest, a sense of vindication he hadn't dared to dream of. He had done it. He had proved it. But the fight wasn't over. Godzilla, though contained, was far from defeated. It shifted, a deep, rumbling growl emanating from its chest. The containment charm was already beginning to shimmer, straining under the immense pressure. Arthur looked at the confined Titan, then out into the darkness beyond Hogwarts, into a world that had no idea what was stirring beneath its surface. The immediate crisis was averted, but a far greater one was just beginning. The wizarding world had just been introduced to the unimaginable, and a new, perilous question loomed large. What do you do with a god?